So, cosmic book news. I want to remind everybody here. Okay, I want to remind you all. Cosmic book news is not a legitimate source of information. They are not a legitimate, really anything. They have never really been accurate on quote unquote scoops. They've never been accurate on, or not accurate, but first on reporting things. Like eh, eh, they're basically a blog that re-reports information that is already out there. That's all they are. But they also have a major bias against the current DCU slate and a lot of other things. So here we go. So they posted this 21 hours ago. They say, I'm currently at New York Comic Con following the huge disappointment of James Gunn's Peacemaker Season 2 and finale. I reached out to my insiders about the state of the DCU at Warner Brothers. Now, do they have insiders? Probably not. But hey, well, what can I say? I can't sit here and say that they do or don't for sure. But I'm going to say they probably don't. Anyways, they say more to come, but I'm told that Zack Snyder wants to return to DC at some point and do an adaptation of the Batman comic, The Dark Knight Returns, by legendary Frank Miller and Klaus Janson. Regarding any chance Snyder will return to his DCEU Justice League movies, I'm told that ship has sailed and that everybody has moved on. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to talk about this one first is because this is not new information. This is not something that is like unknown. Zack Snyder talked about this in an article with the Hollywood Reporter. I believe it was Hollywood Reporter like a year and a half ago. They sat down and had a talk with him, and they asked him about returning to DC, and he said, I would return to DC for The Dark Knight Returns. Like that he has stated that. Zack Snyder has stated that publicly. So this isn't insider information. This isn't information that Cosmic Book News went and sought out and found because nobody else could get it. No, this is information that, well, has been known. This is information that you can go and pretty much find on your own. This is the kind of stuff that, I sit there and I find hilarious. I find it hilarious that people will sit there and try and, make up these whole ideas like, oh, let's take old information and make it as new and act like we know what we're talking about. No, and that was the whole idea behind this article here, or not article, this information, this news. Because once you see the other bit that they shared first, the other bit that they talked about trying to get people on board with them, you're going to understand why they share this. Because this is all about them trying to legitimize themselves. Okay, so moving on to the big thing that they really started to talk about, which, like I said, was the big news. With Superman reportedly bombing financially, with Peacemaker Season 2 flopping with fans, I reached out to my insiders about the state of DCU under James Gunn. The short of it is that James Gunn will be out as the head of DCU with the WBD sale. I'm told if David Ellison of Skydance Paramount buys Warner Brothers Discovery, that Mike DeLuca will be in charge of DC and do a completely new start. All right. First off, let's look at things from a not so idiotic point of view. First off, Superman was not bombing. It was not a bomb. It did not bomb. Superman did not bomb. Superman was a success, a huge success. In 2025, Superman was a huge success. But Robert, what's that? It lost $40 million. No, it did not lose $40 million. It did not. All right. So put that to the back burner. But it's not that Forbes article, the speculative piece, the piece that specifically states that we don't know how much money this movie made. Like it states that in the article that states in the headline, let's see how much this movie made. And then the article doesn't even say how much it made or lost. Oh, that article? That's the one you're talking about? Because that's the thing. People, like I said a little bit ago, they want to take these narratives and run with them if they fit what they're trying to prove. That's why you have not heard me specifically talk about that Variety article from September that sat there and said, our sources say that this movie made $125 million. I may have mentioned it, but I haven't sat there and treated it as gospel. I've said, hey, it's saying that it made this much. It's possible. It's possible. But until we get the real information, there's no knowing. That's why I talk about box office numbers. Talking about profit for movies is nearly impossible. Because unless the theater or the studios, unless the studios come out and say, this movie made X amount of profit, we never know. It's all speculation. It's all us trying to figure out the numbers. Well, if the theaters take this much and the marketing was this much, which we never know truly what the marketing was, if the tax incentives were this when they shot here in Svalbard or here in Ohio or here this much, and we don't know all the intricacies of what the production was. So trying to figure out the profit is nearly impossible for any movie. You could go back through me. I've been doing podcasting since 2016. I talk about box office because that is a good way, a good gauge to understand how successful a movie is. Okay. I understand you want to sit there and talk about, well, if a movie isn't profitable, it's a flop. I get that. And there's instances where you can sit there and say, obviously this movie is a flop because it made $200 million and the budget was $150 million. Well, yeah, that's obviously a flop because the production plus the marketing plus everything else, yeah, that ends up being a flop. I get that. Those are easy things to see as a flop. But movies that cost $200 million and then make over $600 million, it's hard to tell if those end up being a flop, if they made a profit, if they didn't make a profit, because of how big of a jump between the box office and the budgets were. So people need to calm down a little bit on that aspect. It is what it is. So that's number one. Superman did not bomb financially. Not to mention that it was a huge critic and audience darling. People love the movie. Peacemaker season 2 flopping with fans. I haven't seen Peacemaker season 2 flopping with fans. I even see the audience enjoying it. Even people who aren't big fans have enjoyed it. Your typical DCU haters, your typical Gunn haters don't like it, but I'm not seeing this perceived flopping or hate with Peacemaker season 2. Did some people think the finale disappointed? Sure. But not every season, not every show, pleases everyone. Even the biggest shows have disappointing finales for seasons. I pointed this out. People want to sit there and talk about, oh, this show never even charted on the Nielsen charts. Oh, okay. There's been some big shows that in the first few seasons of it never charted, but still were big and popular shows even in their first couple seasons. The morning show, huge show on Apple TV. People love it. The first 2 seasons never charted on the Nielsen charts, not to mention that it won awards. I'm not saying Peacemaker is going to win awards, but it never charted. What else? Severance. The first 2 seasons, the first season and a half of Severance never charted. Never charted. It wasn't until halfway through the second season did Severance start to chart. All right? There's other there's other shows. I can't think of what was it like? I can't think right now. But there's other shows that have done the same. Not every show charts, because if you think about it, if they went off that metric, if it was like, hey, every show has to chart to be successful, then you would only have like 5 to 10 shows on TV at any given time. Like, not every show has to chart to be successful. So this mindset that shows have to chart to be successful is asinine and ridiculous. So there's that. Okay. We don't know, like, financially, when it comes to streaming stuff, you can never figure out financially what's successful, what's not financially wise. So we can't talk about that. So moving on, he says he reached out and his insiders told him that James Gunn will be gone from the DCU once the sale happens. First off, I don't know if you heard the news today, but apparently Skydance Paramount threw a bid towards Warner Brothers. My guess is it was kind of like a preliminary bid, something to just kind of set the wheels in motion, just to see, like, hey, let's throw out a bid and let's get the ball rolling to see where things are at. But they denied it. Warner Brothers Discovery apparently said, nope, we nixed that. We don't want that. That's not a deal. We don't accept it. Okay. People are trying to say David Ellison, the guy who runs Paramount Skydance now, Skydance Paramount, whatever it's called, is going to oust James Gunn because 2 projects have been massive, quote unquote, massive failures that they obviously have not been massive failures. Now, first off, David Ellison does not see, like, he sees what we see right now. Keep that in mind. Like, from his standpoint, he only sees what we see. He's not at the studio seeing the books, seeing the actual numbers. So when he gets in there, he could see the actual numbers, and maybe they're better, maybe they're worse. We don't know. But he could also get in there and he could have a conversation with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and he could be blown away and say, wow, let's let you finish off your next 6 years, 8 years, whatever it ends up being. Let's let you finish off your run. If it does well, we continue going forward. If not, we start something new. Again, we don't know what Ellison is going to want to do. So to sit there and say, oh, we're hearing that James Gunn is out, is just completely asinine. It's ridiculous. You don't know what's in the mind of a studio head. You really think that people are going to sit there and talk about DC Studios specifically when they're talking about a major takeover? I'm not going to sit there and say that DC Studios isn't like an important piece of that, because it is. You know, that IP is huge. It's going to be worth, billions of dollars in the long run. But when they're sitting there talking about, let's buy Warner Brothers Discovery, DC is this little part of it. There's so much more part of Warner Brothers Discovery that they're not sitting there saying, oh, if we get Warner Brothers Discovery, James Gunn's out, this is out. Like, they're not talking about that. They're like, okay, we got to worry about, what can we do to get this? Because we want this IP. So let's worry about getting this. And then once they get it, then that's when they're going to start talking about and figuring out, hey, who do we want to keep? Who do we not want to keep? And things like that. So at this point, people saying they have information that people are going to be ousted and fired and things like that is absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. It's dumb. It is absolutely dumb. Now, as I always say, if it comes down to it, if at some point James Gunn is no longer running DC Studios and they get somebody else in there running DC Studios, guess what? I'm going to support that person as well. I will support that person and I will hope for the best, because it's about the franchise. It's about the IP. It's about the excitement about getting more content. I'll be disappointed that we have to go through another reboot. I'll be pissed off about that. But when all is said and done, I will be excited that the that we're getting DC stuff. I'm sorry, I clicked something. That we'll be getting DC stuff. That's what I'll be excited about. So, yeah. Let's see here. So, with all that said, Cosmic Book News, excuse me, is not a legitimate source. They push a mix of rumor, speculation, hot takes. They are not pushing verified reporting at all. They've had multiple big scoops that have been proven false. Specifically, the one that they tried to push that Ezra Miller was going to be recast as the Flash in the Flash movie. Yeah, that was a thing. So just remember, if you see a story come from Cosmic Book News and nowhere else, it's not real. It probably is. Places like Cosmic Book News are not your outlet to get scoops or information. Scoops, I keep telling you, scoops are just they're cancer. They're cancer. They take you down a road that's just going to get you angry and screw everything up, and it's just not worth it. It's not worth it at all. But guys, let me know your thoughts about these two things in the comments below.